Russia, March 1917. For Tsar Nicholas II and his Russian Empire, the Great War is a disaster. After less than 3 years of warfare, Russian casualties are higher than any nation in history. With the economy in a state of disrepair from the costly war effort, riots and strikes break out across Petrograd over the scarcity of food and poor living conditions. After the demonstrators are joined by demoralized army troops, the chorus of unrest reaches its crescendo, and Tsar Nicholas II is forced to abdicate. A Molotov cocktail of enormous casualties at the front and deep privations at home has finally exploded, burning down the institution of the Tsar and centuries of Tsarist rule in the ensuing inferno. A new provisional government takes office and pushes on with the war effort in the vain hope of securing a peace without defeat. After a failed July offensive and the fall of the Russian-held city of Riga to German forces, revolutionary fervor reaches a boiling point. The provisional government is toppled. The Bolsheviks seize control. This dramatic shift in power will soon shake all of Europe to its very core. But for now, it will dramatically change the fortunes of war for the German army. On December 20th, 1917, an armistice is reached and the Bolsheviks negotiate a painful peace treaty with Germany. Essentially powerless, the Soviet government has no choice but to accept the humiliating terms of the Treaty of Brest-Litovsk. Ukraine, the Baltic, the Caucasus, and Russian Poland are stripped away and mostly usurped by the Germans, a loss of 1/3 of Russia's population. With the ceasing of hostilities in the east, no fewer than 44 German divisions are freed and immediately thrown into battle on the Western Front. A huge spring offensive, the Kaiserschlacht, is about to begin. March 1918. With the 4-year anniversary of the Great War fast approaching, it is clear to the Germans that their chances of emerging victorious are increasingly slim. If no clear victory is achieved by the end of 1918, they will suffer certain defeat. The only hope is one last major offensive to win the war once and for all before the Americans enter the conflict. Erich Ludendorff, essentially running Germany at this point, commences the Kaiserschlacht on the 21st March with the launch of Operation Michael. Beginning at 4:40 a.m., the Allies are pounded by the largest artillery bombardment of the entire war up to this point. "6,600 guns, divided into 5 different phases, rain death and destruction down onto the shocked and outnumbered Allied troops." By 9:40 a.m., 5 hours after the bombardment has begun, 8,000 casualties have been inflicted on the British. Deep communication lines, as well as railways and airfields, are severely damaged. Allied troops retreat over 40 miles, but the expected collapse never happens, and German infantry make far slower progress than expected. Casualties are appallingly high on the first day of Operation Michael, Germany suffering 40,000, a quarter of them mortally wounded, while British losses are only slightly fewer. By the time Ludendorff finally halts the offensive on April 5th, German casualties stand at 239,000, a staggering total so late into the war. The British and French fare even worse, with 338,000 casualties, a quarter of which have been taken prisoner. Alarmingly, Only 2 weeks of casualties during Operation Michael are equal to 5 months of fighting at Verdun. If you are enjoying this video and would like to ensure that more episodes are produced, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, and please consider subscribing to Enigma Productions. Darkness over Deutschland continues now. Such losses for the Germans, now down to their last reserves, are irreplaceable. For the first time during the war, the morale of the German soldier starts to crack. Anger over cuts to rations, increasingly poor food quality, and letters from home bemoaning rising prices and worsening living conditions begin to take their toll. Combined with a feeling that German officers are living the good life behind the front lines, while they fight and die, contributes to the soldiers' belief that they are making sacrifices for the benefit of capitalists and profiteers. Germany's deteriorating situation is made worse as it falls behind in munitions production. After starting the war with an industrial advantage over both France and Britain, shortages of raw materials means production cannot be expanded at the same rate as the Allies. In 1915, the British established a Ministry of Munitions to build arms factories across the country and employ women to make up for workforce losses caused by the war. In 1917, British explosives production exceeds that of the Germans for the first time, as production increases to a whopping 180,000 tons, up 100,000 tons from the previous year. In spite of this, the Germans launch a follow-up offensive in April to initial success, but it quickly runs out of steam, resulting in further casualties that Ludendorff can ill afford. Though they suffer another 150,000 losses of their own, the Allies can still find reserves to plug the gaps. In June 1918, the Americans finally enter the battle, arriving at 200,000 troops per month. Unsurprisingly, the cracks in German morale begin to deepen. The gains from the March offensive, paid for in rivers of blood, are lost to the Allies in August and September. By October, the Allies breach the heavily fortified Siegfried Line. The Kaiser's army is now in full retreat. The heads of the German Imperial Army, Paul von Hindenburg and Erich von Ludendorff, can see the writing on the wall. Germany is as good as done. However, they are determined to negotiate a peace before a complete military defeat. The German army's standing, as well as their own, is at stake. The Kaiserschlacht offensives, Germany's final roll of the dice, is at first a success. Operation Michael, a surprise attack aimed at dividing France and Britain in the West,